there have been many times when I've been doing, a workshop or an exercise for the team or whatever, one of these conferences, web conferencing softwares, Zoom, Google Meet, whatever. And it's just crickets. It's just like, is anyone out there? Hello. Sun is pretty glary. Pretty sweet though. Anyway, I found that I'm linking it to this theory of constraints idea. So if you're just asking for a response, and from anybody, and especially if it's like a broad response, I wonder if those cows are going to get antsy, moving a bit, then it's very difficult for people to respond, and obviously there's the nervousness of it as well. You got your shy boys and girls out there who just don't want to put themselves in a position where they might embarrass themselves. But also with those people who are more confident, if it's open-ended or if it's to everybody, then it's way harder to get engagement, right? So what I've found works is kind of forcing it, basically forcing engagement by going through, because sometimes you'd put them in rooms and you wouldn't have to force it here, but put them in like pairs, so it's just two people, and all of a sudden they're like flowing with ideas. It's just you're not there, they're in the breakout rooms and they're doing whatever. You're not there, the rest of the people aren't there, it's just them and one other person. But it's helpful to get input when everyone's there. So what you can do is basically go around the room and make the question as specific as possible without making it yes or no. And so like a non yes or no question would be bad, like if you ever used time blocking before and they're like nah, they're like yeah, it's pretty good actually, or I guess you can ask something like how do you manage your time, and they may be able to give a cogent response with something that's that kind of restrictive. I remember one time I asked basically for any anecdote at all, for like any story that they want to share, because we were talking about, I was played them this talk from Story Branding. There's a book I think called Story Branding, and so the guy, man, I'm really sun maxing right now. Let me try and keep the sun behind me. So this guy talking about story branding, right? So it was this method of like, just getting your company brand into a very short, little story, basically, micro story. Cool idea. And as part of the exercise, I basically asked them to, give me any story at all, any little anecdote from their life. And the idea being that we could look at maybe how we naturally structure stories. And literally no one could think of anything, right? So this is the theory of constraints proven out. It's like without any constraints, you can tell me any story at all. People's minds go absolutely blank. It's like, surely if you give people the freedom, that much freedom, there's infinite story, well, not infinite, but a huge number of stories that they could tell you. But the reality is no, that's the problem. That's what stops that from being, it stops their brain from being able to engage with it. And so anyway, so I've found, and when it comes to the group as a whole, we've been telling them, a good question that they that is constrained, then if you ask that to a larger group, then they can still all freeze up and clam up. And the confident ones are sometimes clamming up as well, because they're like, well, I'm always talking, someone else should have a go. But there's nothing wrong with literally just going around the room. And that's what I mean by kind of forcing it. And, you know, that's certainly narrowing constraints. And it's, you know, it proves out this theory, this really cool idea of theory of constraints, is that if you put constraints on so much, in this instance, you're trying to get, you know, an audience through Zoom or whatever to engage. The way to make engagement almost certain is to have a constrained question, not a huge open-ended massive question, but a constrained question, and it's one person has to answer it, and then engagements is going to happen, because there aren't infinite options anymore. There's only like one option. There are always options, but it's now very constrained within one channel. And you want to give people the option to pass. You know, you don't want to be a weird tyrant about it, but you know, you do need these things. And this kind of, if you're working remotely and you're doing anything like that, you do need to, you know, figure out ways to basically get people in it and get them involved and not really give them a way out. Sounds bad, but it's just, you know, it's just true. It's just what works. Anyway, yeah, theory of constraints, man. It's big.